Amahyanatimrandasya Shanansa Sekshuran Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachai Desatarane. Srila Prabhupada ki. We continue with our study of Nectar of Instruction, trying to understand the basics for becoming Krishna conscious. At the end of the purport of the first verse, Srila Prabhupada quoted the verse of Prahlad Maharaj, Materna Krishna Patos Vatufam. And this verse explains that if you cannot control your body, mind, and senses, then you cannot become Krishna conscious. So the complete control of our body, mind, and senses is attained by using the body, mind, and senses in devotional service, engage them in the devotional service. But to attain this full engagement, that Srila Rupa Goswami explains now six things not to do, and six things we must do. That the text 2 explains us what not to do, what we have to give up. That and in the purport, here at the beginning of the purport of Nectar of Instruction, verse 2, there Srila Prabhupada explains the difference between a broad-minded person and a miser. That the miser sees only the moment of enjoyment and connects with the material energy, the lower energy. But the broad-minded person, who is a Mahatma, he knows how to connect with the spiritual energy and comes in the energy of the soul, that the higher spiritual energy, because the soul, apariyam etastvam yam prakati vidimeparam, Krishna says in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, besides this material energy, this higher spiritual energy, which comprises the living entities. So we are at home in this higher energy. Now we will first read text number 2. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Atyahara Payasascha Prajalpo Niyamagra Jana Sangha Salolyamsa Sadbhir Bhaktir Vinashyati. So, Rupa Goswami says, one's devotional service is spoiled when one becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. That eating more than is necessary, or collecting more funds than required, 2, endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, 3, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, 4, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them or not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5. Associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness and being greedy for mundane achievement. So these are six things to do. So one's devotional service becomes spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. The first is eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. So if we eat more than necessary, we cannot come to applying the first verse because if we eat more than necessary, then the pressure from the stomach, the intestines, on the genitals will be heavy, and one will not be able to control one's sexual desire. But one can say eating more than necessary. What is necessary? Necessary, Srila Prabhupada explains that one should just eat to keep body and soul together, not out of sense gratification or one's liking for eating. And one should eat only Krishna Prasad. Because by eating only Krishna Prasad, one gets gradually spiritual power to control the senses. But Srila Goswami warns one should eat only prasadam, but not too much, just what one needs. And what is it what we need? How can we know? We need we need to eat just what we can digest in one time. Ayurveda says you can digest in one time what you can hold in your 2 hands. We are all different hands, and so we have all a different measure of eating. When Queen Kunti was cooking for the Pandavas, she would everything she cooked, after offering, she would divide in 2, and half would go to Bhima, and the rest was divided among the other Pandavas and Draupadi and herself. That we have all a different measure. If you eat more than you digest, then it can digest in one time. A part of the food will not be digested and create harm or toxic substances. And these toxic substances will settle down in your body in certain place, and cause disease. So that is the importance of controlling the eating. Also eating at regular times. That is required. So that not eating between the meals, that at certain times in the morning we take a breakfast. We can take 70-80% from what we can digest at noontime. The fire of this digestion is the highest. And then we can take up to 90% of what we can digest. And in the evening, very little, 20%. Otherwise, you get problems in the night. That's the first part, eating more than necessary. But the second part is collecting more funds than required. So we should only work to maintain a simple life of high thinking, but very simple. So what does that mean in practice? Don't complicate your life. Don't try to buy a house with a very high monthly mortgage to pay, because you will become a slave from the house and a slave of the banks and so on. So many problems. Srila Prabhupada would say in India people have problems, but in America they have much more problems. He used to say, because there are so many things that have to be considered. You get one car, two cars, but you have to maintain them, to clean them, and so on. It's a whole job. That the more you have, the more you become dependent on these things. So best to have a simple life. That does not mean that we don't need to endeavor for what we need. We need a simple, comfortable life. That's important. And that brings us to the next point, endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. That's yes. Prabhupada in a lecture said that the Indians, they don't want to go, most of them don't want to go back to Godhead. They want to go to America. But yes, that is a Fata Morgana, experience the American dream, but unfortunately it's just a dream. It never happens. So endeavoring on mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Then I'm just going over the verses so that we understand the meaning deeply, and then we can look at the purport and discuss this. So 3, talking unnecessary about mundane subject matters. So Krishna consciousness works on the basis of association. Jagadananda Pandit in his Prema Vivarta, he writes, yes, that Krishna consciousness does not work in association of non-devotees. You need association of devotees to make spiritual progress. But that's based on knowledge that Devahuti says to her husband Kardama Muni, Pashangam ajram pasham atmana kavayovido saiva sadasukrito moksatvaramapavidam. Every learned man knows well that attachment to the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to self-realized devotees, opens the door for liberation. So this association is very important. But if we take association with mundane people, then we will increase our material attachment. If we associate with pure devotees, we increase our association to Krishna. An association means listening to their talks. If we listen to the talks of a pure devotee, we will make spiritual advancement. If we listen to the talks on mundane subject matters, then we will become attracted to sense gratification, and we will be further away from making spiritual advancement. It will attract us more and more to the spiritual energy. And also King Rishabhadev in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, he makes that same point, that Mahat Sevam Dvaram Aurvimuktes Tamudvam Yosta Sangasangam Mahantas Tisamasitapasandam Vimanya Vasuda Sadhavoye. So one must render service, King Rishabhadev says, to highly advanced spiritual personalities. That those, one should render service to Mahatmas. But those who are not interested in such activities and associate with people fond of women and sex, the path to hell is wide open. So that is very clear, that do not take association with mundane people, that don't listen to their talks. Sometimes we may have to listen to talks of them, but for the sake of doing business, that's something else. But just for the sake of doing business. Otherwise, we should give our association to them and not take their association. So yes, and then 4, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently of whimsically. So the rules and regulations, there are rules and regulations. You have to follow the 4 regulative principles, and you have things not to do. And things to do, you should chant Hare Krishna, hear about Krishna, worship the deity, and that take only Krishna Prasad, that these are, chant the holy name, that these are the rules, the scriptural rules. We should know why we follow them. It's to purify our heart and develop love of Krishna. And not following them, rejecting them, that will contaminate again our minds, body, and so on. So we should know why we follow the rules and regulations. 5, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. Laulyam, that we should, our purpose in life should be to become Krishna conscious and please Krishna. That should be the priority. All the other things should be secondary. So prioritize what we do during the day. That brings us back to the sadhana chart we had discussed last time. It's good to keep a sadhana chart and evaluate whether you follow properly all these rules and regulations of the scriptures, and whether you make advancement. Especially on Ekadashis, we can check whether we made advancement or not, and make a plan to increase our Krishna conscious activities, or make a plan how to connect our business or whatever we do with Krishna during the day. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yat karosi yat asnasi yat yosi dadasi yat. Whatever you do, whatever you give away, then Mat Achpanam, Krishna says, do it as an offering to me. Okay, we will now start reading the purport. Can someone read the first paragraph, please? Human life is meant for plain living and high thinking.
Sure.
Thank you.
Human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. Since all conditioned living beings are under the control of the Lord's third energy, this material world is designed so that one is obliged to work. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has 3 primary energies, or potencies. The first is called the Antaranga Shakti, or the internal potency. The second is called the Tatashta Shakti, or the marginal potency. The third is called Bahiranga Shakti, or the external potency. The living entities constitute the marginal potency, and they are situated between the internal and external potencies. Being subordinate as eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Jivatmas, or atomic living entities, must remain under the control of either the internal or external potency. When they are under the control of the internal potency, they display their natural constitutional activity, namely constant engagement in the devotional service of the Lord.
Yes,
this is okay.
Thank you. So yes, here Prabhupada makes it clear there are these 3 Shaktis, these 3 energies. And that, of course, for Krishna, all these energies are one. that and he can make his energy working material or spiritual. But for our sake, Upaswami has made a division in three energies. The Antaranga Shakti is the spiritual energy. The Bahiranga Shakti is the material energy. And we are Tatastha Shakti, the spirit soul. The spirit soul is also spiritual energy. It's part of the Antaranga Shakti, but it is very minute, very minute. And, and it's called marginal, tatastha, because we have the tendency to either connect with the spiritual energy or with the material energy. And how do we connect with these energies? It's by desiring, because that is what the soul does, attachment, desire. That so we have to be careful what we desire. That we must always desire for the pleasure of Krishna. Then we are connecting with the Antaranga Shakti. Then we are connecting with the divine energy. Then we are considered a Mahatma when we do that always. But mostly in the material world, people, non-devotees, they are connecting with the Bhairanga, with the external energy. And this verse today explains us how to stop connecting with this external energy. Don't become entangled in it. Connect with the Antaranga Shakti. How to connect with the Antaranga Shakti is explained in the third verse. So, because we are Tatastha Shakti, the marginal potency, we can connect with this internal or the external energy according to our desires and activities. But Krishna explained in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, at the end, you have the three sloka Gita, where Krishna explains that yes, there is the conditioned soul and the liberated soul. He says at the end of the 15th chapter that and Tvavima Pushe Loke Kshara Sakshaiva Sha Kshara Sarvani Bhutani Kutastu Ksauchati. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is infallible. So it means we have to become infallible by connecting with the Antaranga Shakti. That otherwise we remain conditioned, connected with the Bhairanga Shakti. But then Krishna says, Yasmaksha matitoam akshara apisotama atasmi loke vedi sa patita purushotama. Because I'm transcendental beyond the fallible and infallible, and because I'm the greatest, I'm celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person. So Krishna says, beyond this, beyond this material energy and beyond the spiritual energy, I'm there, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That So Krishna controls the infallible and the fallible. That through his energies, the Antiranga Sakti and the Bhairanga Sakti. But as living entities, we must be under Krishna's energy. In the material world, we are conditioned by the material energy. In the spiritual world, we are conditioned by the spiritual energy. But in the spiritual energy, we have much more freedom. But we are, either way, we are under Krishna's energy. And that is what Srila Prabhupada also explains here, that the living entities must remain under control of either the internal or the external potency. We are always under control. So that is. And then the Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse of the Mahatma. Mahatmanastu mam parta devim praktimashvita bhajantyana manasu jatva bhutadim avyam. Asunafrita, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So here it's mentioned, Devim Prakritim Ashvitaha, they take shelter of this internal energy. How does one take shelter of the eternal energy? That is through devotional service. That true devotional service means service with devotion, with love to Krishna. That so if we learn how to love Krishna every moment, we are always situated under the spiritual energy. Then the Prabhupada explains the difference between a Mahatma and a miser. Can someone read this next paragraph, please, the word Mahatma?
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
The word Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded, not cripple-minded. Cripple-minded persons, always engaged in satisfying their senses, sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others, though some ism, like nationalism, humanitarianism, or altruism, they may reject personal sense gratification for the sense gratification of others, like the members of their family, community, or society, either national or international. Actually, all these activities are extended sense gratification from personal to communal to social. These activities may all be very good from the material point of view, but they have no spiritual value. The basis of such activities is sense gratification, either personal or extended. Only when a person gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord can he be called a Mahatma, or a broad-minded person.
Thank you.
Horrible.
So that is the difference between a Mahatma and a miser. But we learn here that all activities in this world based on identification with the body, they are material. That because based on the body, we are accepting nationalism. This body is born in this country. I belong to this nation. Or I belong to this family. But this is not factual. The soul does not belong to anyone. and it's not a relationship with anyone. That it's just temporary, illusionary relationships that, of course, we have to work in the interest of the family, but with the understanding that this family is very temporary. It's nothing to take too serious. We will die soon. We are out of it. That whether you take it serious or not, it doesn't matter. It's all temporary and therefore useless. But we can using our family connections to become Krishna consciousness by instructing our family members in Krishna consciousness, by doing Krishna conscious activities together, by giving them prasad that give association that. But Prabhupada said it's all extended sense gratification. We act for our sense gratification, and we act for the sense gratification of others. That so materially, a person is considered a nice person when he is a patriot, that or provides for his family and so on. That but it has no spiritual value. That so this is the deeper philosophy why we should avoid these 6 things not to do. We should why we should not do these 6 things explained in this verse. That because it will aggravate or increase our illusory attachment to family, community, society. That so that is sometimes difficult because the common understanding of people is that, or the goal of life is to serve their country or their family or whatever. That we see that with the elections in America, how everyone becomes engrossed in this illusory strife to make the nation great. But it's based on illusion that they they came to America, they threw the Indians out, killed most of them, and then said the land is ours. And we are American. It belongs to the Americans. But yes, factually, everything, nothing belongs to us. It's a mental concoction based on this body identification. So we have to liberate our consciousness from all these entanglements and come to the spiritual position of becoming attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then you see beyond the moment, this one moment of enjoyment or you see beyond this life. Bhagavad Gita explains us how we came here and what will be our destinations after this life. A broad-minded person sees not only the moment, but sees the bigger pictures. Everyone is short-sighted, especially in this age. That these qualities of the people in this age, they are explained in the Bhagavatam. Payanolpayusa sabya kalvasmin shure janam manusmanta matayo mandabhya yupadutaha. So in this age, everyone has short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. They see the moment of enjoyment, that this short life, which is tottering, is over very, very soon. And we think that's all in all. But our consciousness doesn't die. We remain conscious. Between two bodies, we are still conscious of the self. And we wake up in another body, another nightmare. And why is that? Because we use our human life to connect with the material energy, but we should connect with the spiritual energy. So unless we come to that point of broad-mindedness, we are staying in this world. So this is Prabhupada explains this further in the next paragraph. Can someone read the next paragraph, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
In the above quoted verse from the Bhagavad Gita, the words Daivim Prakritim refer to the control of the internal potency or the pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This pleasure potency is manifested as Srimati Radharani or her expansion, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. When the individual jiva souls are under the control of the internal energy, their only engagement is the satisfaction of Krishna or Vishnu. This is the position of a Mahatma. If one person is not a Mahatma, then he is a Duratma or a cripple-minded person. Such mentally crippled Duratmas are put under the control of the Lord's external potency, Mahamaya. Indeed, all living energies within this material world are under the control of Mahamaya, whose business is to subject them to the influence of the threefold miseries. Adhidavika klesha, sufferings caused by demigods such as droughts, earthquakes, and storms. Adhibhavika klesha, sufferings caused by other living entities like insects or enemies. And the adhyatmika klesha, which is suffering caused by one's own body and mind, such as mental and physical infirmities. My things messed up here. Dalva Bhutatma Hetva, the conditioned soul subject to these three miseries by the control of the external energy suffer various difficulties.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that in the first part we heard that in the internal energy, their only engagement is the satisfaction of Krishna or Vishnu. So this is what Lord Krishna stresses in Bhagavad Gita. That's how to perform devotional service. Start with Shakhnarta karmano yatra lokayam karma bandhana tatartam karma kauntya mukta sangyachamacha. work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Because if you work for Vishnu, you are connected with the spiritual energy. That if you are not working for Vishnu, you get reactions of your activities, and you become entangled, and you prepare to get a new body in the next life. That if we act as a sacrifice for Vishnu, then we prepare for a spiritual body in next life. All our karma will stop. We will become purified from this karma. That and so Krishna says, if you perform the duties for my satisfaction, then you will always remain free from bondage, because we become under this spiritual energy. So you have Krishna and his energies, and he's controlling his energies. And his energies are represented by Srimati Radharani, especially she is controlling the Ladini Shakti, or the pleasure-giving potency. The pleasure that gives, the potency that gives pleasure to Krishna. And by performing devotional service, we connect with this pleasure potency. That we connect to it by the mercy of the spiritual master, by following his instructions. And then, when we connect with this pleasure potency, we become purified from this influence of the material energy, and we start to see things as they are. So, as long as we are working for the satisfaction of Krishna, we are under the spiritual energy. So the activities of a devotee and a non-devotee may look the same externally, but they are working under a different energy, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. That one who works always under the spiritual energy is a Mahatma. So the residents of Vrindavan, they act only for the pleasure of Krishna. They even don't care that he is God or not, but they see Krishna as their son, or as their friend, or as their lover. But their only goal of life is to give pleasure to Krishna. And that makes one become endowed or submerged in this spiritual energy. And as long as you are submerged under this internal energy, you forget all these problems of this material world, because you are engaged as a soul. You forget the body gradually. That the body is a covering, which we don't need, the subtle and the gross body. But we have got these coverings because we were working to connect with the material energy for our own pleasure, for the pleasure and not really for our own pleasure, for the misidentification of our own, the body, which is useless. The body is temporary, and we need to give it up. So the message of Krishna is, become a Mahatma in your life. That always acting for the pleasure of Krishna. Because that's in the material world, all activities are under under the control of Maya, Mahamaya, of this material energy. And what is the result? We come under the influence of these three kleshas. We're suffering in three ways in this material world. That sometimes it's too cold, sometimes too hot. That sometimes, yeah, there are storms. That hurricanes, earthquakes, drought storms. That is caused by nature. And nature is under control of these demigods, Adi Deva Klesha. That's one suffering we experience. That another kind of suffering is Adibautika Klesha, suffering caused by others, that other living entities. Insectual enemies, that we get a big tax bill, or we get a fine, or all these things. That so many sufferings caused by other and living entities. We get a divorce. We see the other party as an enemy, and so many. Yeah, so many sufferings caused by other living entities. There are wars, killing each other. And then there's Adhyatmika Klesha. The sufferings caused by disease of one's own body, that or mental suffering, it has no end. And this is what Prabhupada many times said, that spiritual life starts with considering, who am I? And why am I suffering in this world? That's the beginning of spiritual intelligence, asking these questions. And these were the questions that Rupa and Sanatana Goswami were asking to Lord Chaitanya. Why am I suffering? So we are suffering under this, as conditioned souls, suffering these three miseries by the control of the external energy. And there's such a variety of these sufferings. There's such an endless variety of diseases you can have. And the variety increases because now we have this pollution and so on, that factually this pollution is antibiotic calculation. It's caused by all the living entities. Because who is polluting that? So it comes all back that this pollution is a big issue today. But they cannot solve it because they have all their self-interest, their so-called economic interest, which is selfish. That Europe said Europe first, America first, in America. And we don't need this. But we see what suffering it causes. Big storms, like recently in Spain, and in America, Florida, hurricanes, that the whole ecosystem is disturbed by this living entities. So indirectly, it is this extraordinary situations. It's also adibautica klesha. It's caused by other living entities, and it has big reactions that in that way that we are under control of Maya, and Mahamaya's business is to give us miseries. And as long as we are not under the internal energy, Maya will beat us. That will beat the hell out of us. So better to take shelter of the spiritual energy. Then Krishna protects us. He will protect our spiritual advancement. And if we are in spiritual consciousness, then that suffering ends. That suffering will be external. And we will be able to overcome it because we identify with our eternal body, eternal spiritual body, which is now becoming active. But when we connect with the spiritual energy, our spiritual body becomes active again. When it's fully active, we lose the awareness of our material body. We don't need it factually to exist, but we have to wake up from these bad dreams by connecting with the spiritual energy. So it's important we apply this all to our lives, and that Srila Prabhupada will go on explaining this verse in a practical way, but first he puts forward the philosophy that we understand what is really going on in this world. So are there any questions, please? Up down.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. I don't know that I have a question. I'm just okay. So if we do things just out of the generosity of our hearts and we're doing it for Krishna and we're helping people regardless of who's satisfied, is that bad, or is that just me playing tricks on my own self?
And that well, it reminds me to an experience I had many years ago. About 35 years ago, I was working in a home for retired people, old people. And that institution was owned by a Christian monastery. They were the Cistercienser sisters. They were part of a Benedict order. And a Christian order of nuns, which has been there for 1,000 years. And I asked one of the nuns who was serving as a nurse in the home for retired people, taking care of old people. How do you see your service? Well, she said, we see in the heart of everyone Jesus Christ, and we are serving Jesus Christ. And I always remember that. So if we take care of others, we should see Krishna in their hearts or the super soul and serve them to please the super soul. But serve them, of course, we are always considering there are things we cannot do, that we have to give up these 4 sinful activities, that so we cannot serve them meat and all these things that we cannot do. But it is our duty to take care of the elderly people. Lord Krishna says that also. We should take care of our parents, that and take care of our children, trying to give them Krishna consciousness directly or indirectly. It may not be possible to do that always directly. But also when you serve, a devotee develops all good qualities, a good character. And when people associate with you, they will see your exemplary character. So our purpose is to please Krishna. Krishna, which is in their heart, and try to connect them with Krishna. That's the greatest service we can render them. We can give them prasad, we can speak about Krishna when possible. But yes, it should be for the purpose of pleasing Krishna. And what pleases Krishna the most? That Krishna mentioned in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that yes, one who explains the supreme secret to others, devotional service is guaranteed, and he will come back to me. And Krishna says there is no servant in this world more dear than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So Krishna wants us to go back to Godhead. And a devotee helps Krishna with that, to bring others back to Godhead. And therefore we deal with our family members only for the cause of purifying them, helping them going back to Godhead. But that is an art to be learned, because those who are not in the mode of goodness are not receptive for Krishna consciousness. And we cannot introduce Krishna directly, because if they are averse to God, if they are atheist, if we speak to them about Krishna, they will blaspheme the Supreme Lord. And then they will be further away from making spiritual advancement. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, one should not explain this to those who are not austere, who are not devoted, who are not devotees. So we need to find ways to introduce Krishna consciousness, first in an indirect way, that requires expertise. But just by having an exemplary lifestyle in the mode of goodness. We influence others already. You don't even have to speak. But that's a gradual process. I hope this helps.
Thank you, Maharaj. Haribol.
Thank you. Then I wish you a good night, and I see you tomorrow morning for the morning class at 6:45. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna.